Good morning, everybody. Ted White here with the Leveled Up podcast. I'm here with my guest, Jeff Dotzler from Elevity out in Wisconsin, an MSP, growing MSP, part of a bigger conglomerate in the area. Jeff, tell me, tell me a little bit about Elevity and yourself.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for having me. Excited to have this conversation and appreciate the opportunity. First, Elevity is, like you said, we're an MSP in the upper Midwest based in Madison, Wisconsin, but uh, boots on the ground in locations in three Wisconsin cities, Chicago, Indianapolis, and Columbus, Ohio. We're part of a larger office equipment dealer, one of the largest in the country, Canon's largest customer in the U.S., um, and has been around for almost 70 years. I've been part of that organization for 26, and we started a managed services practice in 2012, really out of customers on the print side who, we were connecting more and more stuff to their network. We were installing more applications to help them manage print, secure print. And they liked our customer service, and a few came to us and said, "Hey, would you be interested in helping us with some of our IT?" Which is interesting because a lot of customers today say, "I don't want my copier guy touching my network." So we started to look around, and we realized in the industry, several other of our dealer partners around the country were starting to consider and move into the space. So we started to research it and started ground up with zero customers in 2012, and I was tasked with trying to figure that out. So the first several years, we used some of the master managed service providers to do the technical work, and we did what we do well, which is build relationships, uh, have put the right resources in front of them, and talk to them about how we can help them. In 2020, we made an acquisition of an organization about our same size in the MSP space. So we doubled our size, but dramatically increased our technical capability. At that time, we had the opportunity to move our service desk in house and build that out to really manage the hello, which was an area that I thought we were missing by outsourcing all of that, and just kind of strengthened our group and our offering and got very strategic. At that time, we rebranded and wanted to have our own name in the market. Um, and it was we closed March 1st of 2020, which 3 weeks later, all hell broke loose, and we all had to go home and work out of unfinished rooms in our basement. And I had to figure out how to integrate 35 new people into our organization who were all very concerned about that. We had to come up with a new name, a new brand, a new approach. And we did that all remotely on our own without any outside help. So we brainstormed a whole bunch of ideas, and we really liked the name Elevate. This whole concept of helping organizations elevate their technology, helping them to drive towards their business goals and leveraging technology to do that. Unfortunately, about five other MSPs in the US like that name as well. And so all the URLs were taken. We wouldn't have been able to trademark it, all of those things. So we had other words that we really liked. And we knew that in 2020, security, in 2020 and beyond, security was going to be a critical thing for our clients to think about and for us to offer. So one Saturday morning, after about 4 cups of coffee and this stuff all bouncing around in my head, Elevate and Security slammed together, and the word Elevity was born. Um, After a lot of prodding to get our owners to agree to name an MSP after a made-up word, which they're, kind of traditional Midwest guys that had owned a business for a very long time, took a little convincing. We finally made that push and launched Elevity in June of 2020. Today we're a $24 million MSP with about 60 people on the team. We are kind of within and housed within a large office equipment dealer, but for all intents and purposes, we're a standalone brand and a standalone organization in our markets. We focus on fully managed and co-managed environments. We kind of separate that both by size and by whether they have internal IT. And we're super disciplined about our stack and about our approach, and really lean on what we set as our four pillars. Our four pillars for good technology management are strategy, security, solutions, and support. And we talk about those in that order for a reason. And I kind of like to share the why by inverting it. I think what a lot of managed service providers or IT organizations think about is we need to be really, really good at support. We need to answer the phone quickly. We need to have engineers that can resolve technical problems. We need to give them all the cool tools to do that efficiently and quickly and document everything. If they need to buy some stuff from us, we'll provide the solutions. If they can afford it, let's offer security. And if they have time, let's build a strategy. I don't know if you've gone on a long road trip recently, but you don't get in the car and just start driving and hope someday you get there. You figure out a plan, you figure out where you're going to stop, which direction you want to take. Is there some scenery you want to see along the way? And as you're driving, if something happens, if there's a detour or something else that comes up, you still know how to get to your destination, but that plan helps you manage that. So we lean heavily on ensuring that our clients have a good long-term strategy. We help them build out a technology roadmap. We assign a VCI to every account to help work through that and develop it. And then every 6 months, we take a stop and say, how's this? How are we progressing? You said you wanted to cover this project this upcoming quarter. Are we at the stage for you to execute on that? Is anything changing in the business? Do you have any acquisitions upcoming? Any big ERP changes that are upcoming that we can help you plan for? Security is an absolute in today's world, and we really only work with clients that value what security can do for them, both from a risk mitigation perspective, but also the opportunities that that provides when you have your technology under a good secure environment. You can stack on an acquisition. You can open up a new location and feel comfortable and confident that the business will support where you're headed. And then, of course, we have the solutions that you need, and the solutions that are a part of our stack. And I think we have world-class support to take care of our clients. And they vote in a couple different ways. The first one is by paying their invoice every month. The second is by renewing their contract every 3 years. And the more real time is how they provide feedback on surveys, whether it's a ticket survey or a biannual NPS survey that we do, the Net Promoter Score survey. And the last 2 times that we've completed that, we've been over 80 in the NPS, which in a services-based industry where you're kind of judged based on how well your last ticket went, and in an industry where things break, that's kind of why we're in it. We're pretty happy with that result, and we think we're doing right by our clients.
Awesome. What kind of challenges have you had for 2025 that you didn't have in 24?
Well, I think our biggest challenge in 25, that you have the risk of every year is, just changes with team members and personnel, people either choosing to go find a new opportunity, or us deciding that they need to go find another opportunity. And that can leave some holes, and have some people concerned, in client relationships you have to manage. So it requires us to really think about the account management team that is involved with our clients, so that we can avoid some disruption that will certainly occur. There's probably very few people that are currently working for Elevity that will retire with Elevity. I can guarantee probably one, and that's me. So, the chances of that change occurring is very, very high, and we have to have a resilient program to make sure our clients continue to trust us, and feel confident that we'll continue to deliver on what we deliver on. The other, I think, challenge that we've had to deal with a little bit more in the past is just some uh, business disruption that's happening in the market. We've had several clients that have had to dramatically shrink for whatever reason. They don't always tell us. Have some nonprofits that are very concerned about some of the funding changes that could happen through some of the efforts that are happening. Um, but some odd changes in businesses where at one point they had 45 people and all was great, and they called us and said, "Hey, by the way, we're down to 15." And it's like, that's interesting. And then you look at accounts payable, and you're like, oh, yeah, and they're way behind. This is a bad combo. We've seen a little bit more of that than we've had in the last few years. I think the last few years there's some more growth mindset that a lot of owners had. And we've also seen some hesitation on some larger projects that just aren't closing as quickly as they have in the past. And I attribute some of that to just uncertainty. We're kind of all dealing with, if we pay attention to the news, which probably none of us should, but if you do, one day it's great and everything's, feels like it's moving in the right direction. The next day everything's crashing, and your 401k took a big dump, and you're trying to figure out how to deal with all of that. And I think that leaves some people a little hesitant to make some bigger decisions. I think that's happened a little bit as well in terms of changing your provider. To such a trust-based relationship, and sometimes the devil, even though you may not be perfectly happy, is better than the devil you don't, even if it sounds like it could be good. And so I think we've had some people just kind of sit on some decisions, which has maybe impacted a little bit of our growth goals. We're still on target for a lot of our plans. We still have, having our profitability meet expectations, which is at the end of the day the most important part. But we are there's reliance on our business, on our division, to hopefully grow and backfill kind of the impending decline in print. They've been talking about a paperless office since like the Jetsons, and it's never really happened. In fact, in a lot of cases, print has grown over many years, and we've done a really good job of continuing to grow on the print side. But there's no question that as newer generations and younger people come into the workforce, their reliance on print is less. The work from home approach, people are printing less, and at the end of the day, that'll just be that has the potential to be a real downward pressure on the parent side of the business. So they've divested and looked at other opportunities for growth, and we're the leader in that space for the organization. So we've got to continue to grow. This can't be a lifestyle business where we're just happy being where we are and having a good profit and just hold on and maintain. We have to grow to meet the organization goals. So that hesitancy sometimes can get in the way of some of our larger goals.
When you're talking about the printing, and it's kind of surprised to me, especially nowadays with the devices being able to, be distributed amongst all the employees. Like my Remarkable here, I don't print anything ever, and if I need to, write on a PDF, I can populate that PDF into my Remarkable. So, so what do you think holds certain companies back from signing up for cybersecurity services other than they've never had a breach or they've never had an issue? What do you think prevents companies from doing that?
Yeah, I think most just don't think that they're a target. Well, we're not that big. We don't really do anything exciting. Why would anyone target us? And until their buddy in their foursome cancels because he's dealing with some major issue at work and they can't be productive, sometimes it takes a situation like that for somebody to sit up and go, "Oh, actually, I could be impacted." So we've been doing a lot in terms of breakfasts and larger events to just do some panels and try to educate people on the reality of what might happen, and that the actual guys who are doing the bad things don't know you, don't know anything about you, and didn't target you. They just were able to get somebody to fall for a phishing email. They were able to, find an opening in a firewall that they were just randomly scanning or something. They weren't walking down the street turning doorknobs looking for an open door, or they weren't targeting your house. They were walking down the street looking for an open door. And I think the news helps. The proliferation of bad news traveling fast does help people kind of realize that it could happen to them. Um, I think there's been some benefit with the insurance industry of by requiring, as they've, I wouldn't say caught up, but as they have progressed to understand how the right tools and the right partner in an organization can limit their risk, which makes their premiums go further because they won't have to pay out potentially. So as they have required more tools in order to be insured, that has helped us kind of have a third party validate what we've been saying. Uh,
Yes.
but it really, a lot of it boils down to just word of mouth, and a colleague, something they read in a journal within their industry where somebody had a significant issue. That probably helps more often than not. Obviously, we tell stories, but I hate to sell by fear, but sometimes you kind of have to. Had a customer presentation yesterday, and somebody said, "What's the biggest issue you dealt with last year?" And when we explained it, they all kind of sat back in their chair and were like, "Oh, yeah, okay. I think maybe we need to consider this." The biggest problem with a lot of what we provide, it doesn't really grow the business. It's an insurance policy for the worst case scenario or for the bad days, and we're trying to turn that around to it being an opportunity. That you don't want to have a detour on your plan and you have to go sideways and stop production or send out a big communication to your customers and try to manage your reputation. Like this can not only hopefully reduce your risk from those things happening, but also give you the comfort and the confidence to invest in the business to grow. And it's a kind of a long dotted line to get somebody to see cybersecurity spend with the possibility to grow. But when we bake that all into managed and unmanaged risk, and if you can manage as much of it as possible, you can have the confidence to go do what you need to do. And you never know when those opportunities will present themselves. Um, some competitor that you've been battling with for years, the owner decides one day they want to be done with it, and they call and say, "You ready to join forces?" You want to be ready for that, and you want to have a plan to execute on that because those opportunities don't fall out of the sky very often.
Mhm. So when you're discussing like the expense for technical services, I'm thinking of the return on investment, and you have to kind of reverse engineer that. And in the case that you had last year, what would have been the return on investment had they signed up for one of your cybersecurity policies instead of getting hacked, let's say?
Yeah, they did have one of our programs. They had we've versioned our standard offering for several years. So we're actually our most current standard version is version 4.0, which includes our complete cybersecurity offering, everything that you would need in one monthly operating expense, unlimited service desk, unlimited field engineering, all the things. And they were on that program. What it doesn't prevent is somebody clicking on a bad email, clicking on a link, entering in their Microsoft credentials, and approving the MFA. So they had a token stealing situation, and uh, the the bad guys were in watching and just sat and did nothing, which our managed SIM and security operations center didn't notice because they had done everything correct. They had logged in from the US, like none of the triggers started setting off alarms. Until one day, a bunch of Outlook rules got created really quickly, which set off an alert. We called the customer and said, "Hey, we think something's weird going on. Can we look at these Outlook rules?" Looked at some Outlook rules, found some emails that had been sent that the got moved into the RSS feed, the classic Outlook rules that get set up. And we said, "Hey, there's an invoice or there's a wire transfer request in here. Did you guys do that?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, we did it. It was a legit request from the legit person." And we're like, "It looks like that person's email was compromised. They had wired $400,000." But because the alert of the Outlook rule allowed us to reach out to them fast enough, they were able to call the bank, and the bank hadn't released the funds to the bad bank account. So while it's one of those major, oh, you know what moments, and everybody was kind of panicking, the right tools gave us the right information to contact them in the right timeline to stop that from occurring. Had the bank released the funds, it would have been gone. But two things failed. The tools all worked, but a user clicked a bad email or clicked a link in a bad email, gave out their credentials, which allowed access, and the people didn't verify face to face that they should send the wire. That business practice that says before you send a wire, lean out your door and go, "You sure you want me to hit send on that thing?" Because the person would have said, "I didn't ask for it. I don't know what you're doing." So uh, it's a great story to tell, and it doesn't have a catastrophic end. It has the very near catastrophic end that the tools helped avoid. And it really gets people to kind of sit up straight and say, okay, all the tools did what they were supposed to. The bad guys were just really good. And had I not had that full stack, that money would have been gone. And who knows how many other things they would have done, to really maximize their return while they had access to that system.
That is a compelling story for sure. I think anyone who's listening who wants to either prevent that situation or keep their eyes open, there is a delay when wiring money. I forget what that delay is, whether it's a day or a couple days or so. But that was an awesome catch, and that was a very good example of why people should have services like the ones that you offer. So, Jeff, what are your goals for 2025?
Well, we have five kind of major projects that we're working on to implement this year. We are about 5 weeks out from a ticket management PSA change, kind of the heart of our organization, kind of going from one of the major players to another one of the major players. We did an exhaustive review of both of their kind of long-term strategic plan. I mean, ticketing system's a ticketing system. They each have their benefits and nuances. And if you pulled 30 random MSPs, 15 of them would tell you one's great, 15 would tell you another's great. So it's not so much the tools, it was more of the long-term strategy and how are they working to integrate systems? How are they looking at maximizing the time that our team spends on the right types of tickets and minimize the time on the wrong set of tickets, and how will AI, RPA, all the automation that's coming really help us be able to support more clients without a commensurate amount of bodies. At the end of the day, that's good for us. That's good for our clients, and it's good for the team to have the right tools in their hands. So uh, I have pretty much a dedicated person working on that whole project, and a consulting team that's helping us make sure that on day one, tickets are flowing and clients' impact is not noticed. And we're rolling that out on July 7th. Um, yeah, that's the Monday after the 4th. That's a major project, and we're very excited about the impact that that will have. Um, we have we have, our organization is rolling out a big 80/20 initiative. So for anybody that's followed the Pareto principle, you know, 20% of your customers bring 80% of your profitability, 80%, which means 80% of your customers bring in 20%, which means most of them bring in zero or less. And it's a way to really look at which of your best customers should you be overserving and how can you treat them differently so that those that really matter and make a difference in your organization's success know it and get some special treatment. And when a firewall has an update and 50 of your customers on a Monday morning can't get to the internet all at the same time, instead of the first one that calls you is the first one you call back, maybe that should be prioritized systematically so the best customer gets the first call back. And just really taking a look at that. It also allows us to look at clients that just are using more of our resources than we can afford, and giving them an opportunity to go find a MSP that maybe can better suit their needs. So we're actively involved in that process and working out as we roll out the new PSA, how can we systematically overserve and treat our top customers differently so that they really feel that. That does not mean that we treat the rest of the customers poorly. We just make sure that we overserve those at the top of the list. So that's a big initiative. Obviously, we have top line and bottom line growth initiatives that we're pursuing every month and working to hit our number and keep this thing moving forward. And as always, culture is a super important issue and goal for us to ensure that we're doing the right things, engaging people the right way, in a true way. Not just having a ping pong table and throwing a beer party every once in a while, but getting to know people and ensuring we recognize and remember their birthdays and is celebrating the important events in their life and being there when they have the challenging events in their life. So that, I feel like one of my primary responsibilities is that when eventually somebody feels like they have to leave, they're standing at our door in tears because they love being here, but financially, location, career growth are just things that they have to choose to leave. And we want to give them a hug and thank them for their time here, but we want to do the right thing so that it's a really hard decision, and we work on that every month.
That's great. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you coming on the show. That's a wrap for today. For everybody listening again, we have Jeff Dotzler on the call. And Jeff, thank you again for your time. I think what you shared with the audience is extremely valuable, and I appreciate everything that you've done.
Yeah, thanks, Ted.
Thank you.